everybody, welcome to Take the Black Live show on myself, Dan Selke, and Cheryl Wassenaar, both of winteriscoming.net officially.
You get to say that now?
It's very exciting. Talk all things Game of Thrones, Song, West, and Fire, fantasy fiction, genre fiction, whatever comes up. Cheryl, how are you today?
I'm good. I am enjoying that it is finally summer in Chicago.
I don't know. Are you really? I'm having to wear pants and not shorts, and I'm not kind of liking it.
I mean, I wear pants pretty much every day, so
Gotcha.
I have no sympathy for you.
Sure. That's perfectly fair.
But yeah, no, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about all of the things we have on today's show.
I'm lucky I can wear shorts at all in an office environment. They're very nice here.
That's true. You do have a privilege there.
But I mean, human beings, once we get something, we don't want to give it up. Like, I got a shorts thing, and now even though I'm privileged, like, I consider anything less an invasion of my sartorial choices.
A gross insult.
Yeah,
to
kind
your
of.
dignity.
It's horrible. Like, it's just human nature. I gotta squash that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
something to work on.
everybody watching, I am sorry. I can't see your comments.
Yeah.
Oh, the internet's just being stupid. But if they show up, I will certainly read them. Hello to everybody. I assume Julie's out there. Hey, Julie. And everybody else reading. All right, so let's dive in. Game of Thrones, Song of Fire, Bloodmoon. The Game of Thrones prequel is ramping up. It's happening.
I love Bloodmoon so much.
I'm still hoping that, I mean, we've gone over this before. I'm hoping they change the title. We'll see if they don't. I don't know if they will. Okay, I can see you all. Hey, Lauren. Hey, Julie. Hey, Jordan. Good to see everybody.
We solved the problem. Yay. Okay.
We did.
Bloodmoon.
Yeah, I totally solved it. This was all me.
Yes,
just like
I know.
Flipping it.
I know.
Okay.
So Bloodmoon.
The Game of Thrones prequel is filming in Northern Ireland, and not just in Northern Ireland, by the way. We have some information on that. I like that the star, Naomi Watts, who I love, is at the point where she is being harangued in interviews to talk about the Game of Thrones prequel. It happened to everybody else, and now it's her turn to get a load of that. She's dropping some good old-fashioned, what do you call them?
Sound bites.
Sound bites. There you go.
Sound bites.
Thank you. About it. Let's hear what she has to say, shall we?
I'm all ears.
Okay. Hopefully, those fans come along and get to find something new and interesting in this world as well. I think they won't be let down. It's a great team of people they've put together. And, she says she's intimidated and excited and all that jazz. She also compared Game of Thrones to the world of Shakespeare, which you wrote about in Winter's Coming, I think.
I did.
We love to go back in history and even fantasy and imagine how society evolves or has not evolved. Not really saying much of that we can really sink our teeth into there.
No.
But I do, and I hope you enjoyed living in relative anonymity, Naomi Watts, while it lasted.
Because it's over now.
Yeah, it's over. You're going to get asked this in every single interview you do from now until whenever Bloodmoon ends, if it is happy enough to get picked up.
And probably after it ends, too.
You're probably right for the rest of it.
I mean, I fully expect that whenever, Sophie Turner or somebody, Sophie Turner, Peter Dinklage, all of these people are probably going to be asked about Game of Thrones.
It'll go away eventually. But I mean...
I don't know about that, but...
Well, I mean, I guess, God, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill are still asked about Star Wars to this day.
See what I'm saying? See what I'm
I
saying?
do. But we'll see. We'll have our
Okay.
whole lives to figure that out.
Oh, yes, we do.
So enjoy, Naomi. I'm glad she seems to like it. Of course, she wouldn't say anything else. I mean, what else is she going to say? Would it be funny if, you asked a star, what do you think of this upcoming project? And they're like, oh, it's terrible.
I mean, I feel like you have to have a certain cachet as an actor to say something along the lines of "I'm only in it for the money," because I can think of Orson Welles and a couple other actors like that. I think they've
Sure.
said things to that extent where it's I
Probably.
was just in it for the money at the time. But after,
Yeah, that's after the fact. That's
Right.
years after the fact.
unless you're Orson Welles, in which case you just kind of say it whenever.
Remember what movie he said that about? I don't recall that.
I don't know if it was about a movie specifically.
Probably the Transformers movie.
Might have been, but I want to say it was something like that, or he had lent his voice to some advertising,
Sure.
and that was what it came about in relation to. I don't know. It's one of those tidbits that are in my brain.
If Orson Welles voiced Optimus Prime for The Passion, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, Alec Guinness was also only in Star Wars for the money.
That is true. He famously hated it. But we'll see how that happens. I hope, in 10 years, one of them, an unexpected one, Lyanna Mormont, it's ugh, worst thing I ever did.
How dare you slander Bella Ramsey's future name like that?
Anyway, back to the Bloodmoon prequel. Okay, so we know it's only Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Intriguingly, not unexpectedly, we've learned, thanks to local outlet Il Messaggero. It is also filming.
You tried.
I tried. In Italy, we think, at the Grotta del Turco, near the town of Gaeta, a couple hours southeast of Rome. At a really scenic place that I'm just going to, I think, mistranslate. It is called the Sanctuary of the Split Mountain. Oh, we have a beautiful image, right?
Ooh.
Pretty cool. It's like, it's on the coast. It's like this giant kind of split, in a mountainside. And again, it could be, it's a very beautiful location, and I'm sure it could be used for any number of things. I will say, here's a question for you. Is this show just going to be completely set in caves? Because I see a giant split in a mountain, and I think about, the cave set they built and filming going on at the Marble Arch Caves in Northern Ireland. And I'm like, is the whole show going to be caves? Is it just a cave show?
I don't know if the whole show is going to be caves. I suspect strongly that the show is going to have a lot to do with caves, just based on the filming. But I think it's interesting that they're using kind of different geological scenery.
That's true.
I mean, yeah, there are some caves in Game of Thrones, but they're never quite as important or frequent.
Yeah.
When I think of like these beautiful locations Game of Thrones used, I'm like, I do not think about caves. I think about Dubrovnik in Croatia. I think about Iceland, like all of that. So I think it's interesting that they're choosing to, at least for the pilot, kind of play up caves.
No, I agree with you. I also like that they're going elsewhere. Like, I don't think Game of Thrones ever filmed in Italy.
No.
And it tells you that they have something specific in mind, right? That they wanted, that split in this rock is what we have in mind, what we're going to do. So yeah, that works fine.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely been good at picking locations, kind of.
Oh yeah, that's been consistently excellent.
Yes.
So I'm not worried at all about the technical aspects. I'm really not. I mean, I don't think that we really know enough yet to judge how the actual story is going to be, but I am intrigued there are new people involved. I just hope they're as passionate about it as they need to be to make something of this size and ambition work.
I feel like to take on a project like this, you kind of have to necessarily have, at the very least, ambition.
Oh, totally.
And probably some passion. Like, definitely ambition, passion, yeah, probably too, because, I mean, if, George R.R. Martin's working with you, you have to be, like, willing to go into that knowing that he's working with you on the project.
By the way,
makes sense.
I think when they say George R. Martin is working with them, I think what they really mean is, like, George R. Martin met with them once, and maybe they listened to the outline, like your little spiel, and then said, that sounds pretty good.
Let me have my fantasy, Dan. Just let me have it, Dan.
Okay, you can have it.
Thank you.
I do think, I don't think he's actually working on it.
No, I think he's probably more playing a consultant type, kind of like George Lucas, where it's like, oh, you can do that, you can't do that sort of thing.
Right, sure.
So,
We'll see.
yeah.
Also, interestingly, we're getting at the Marble Arch Caves in County Fermanagh, Northern Ireland. They're putting up the production signs. Now, over the years, we got to know the Game of Thrones production signs. There's little pink things that said GOT, kind of looking pretty iconic.
Yeah.
And I think we have what they're going to use for Bloodmoon, or whatever it's going to be called, Game of Thrones prequel. It's these big, charmingly orange mammoth signs, which is cute. I'm going to call it the Mammoth Show.
Mammoth Moon.
Mammoth Moon?
Or Blood Mammoth.
Oh, okay. That might be even worse than Blood Moon. But it is leaning into the pulpiness, which is fine.
Absolutely.
Blood Mammoth. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
So, I mean, okay, so caves, mammoths. I'm getting like a whole caveman vibe just from the basic stuff that we're picking up.
I mean, we're talking about this period of history that is kind of...
Fake history.
Yes. That is kind of prehistoric in the sense that it is kind of passed into myth and legend by the time that Game of Thrones rolls around anyway. So I don't think it's necessarily a wrong choice. I just think it's a very interesting choice to evoke that very specific look and then also have this kind of be these legendary moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Okay, cool.
I also like that. I mean, look, these big. Remember, like in the pilot for Game of Thrones, they were not able to go to a beautiful split in the rock in Italy to film.
No.
I mean, I don't know if they're actually going to have mammoths, but it seems like they're leaning into it. The budget is going to be way bigger than it was for Game of Thrones to start,
Yes.
which could be a great thing. I hope it doesn't become a crutch, like right out of the gate.
I don't think it will. I think just kind of from the locations they're picking, they're already trying to evoke this different sense, like I was kind of talking about. And I think that the budget can help that, but I don't think that it's going to precipitate having a ton of effects being done.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, cross
That's
your
what I'm
fingers.
going for.
And I think you reported that they may be casting for extras already.
They might be.
Possibly. The extras department, which is Game of Thrones' go-to company for extras throughout a large part of its run in Northern Ireland, posted recently notices for long-haired, clean-shaven guys over 18 and black men over 50, which, we actually don't know what they're for.
We actually don't know.
But we're going to just be irresponsible and just guess. It's definitely for Bloodmoon, for Blood Mammoth. Absolutely.
The reason that I think it's very suspicious is because other postings that the extras department put up on their Facebook page around the same time would be like, this is for a film. This is for this thing that's happening this time and day. And these were a little more kind of suspicious in their wording. So again, it could be something completely different, but it seems just based on the fact that they want long-haired dudes. Like
long-haired, clean-shaven, though, is interesting. Like,
yeah.
beards are a thing, especially in, like...
beards are a thing.
On Game of Thrones.
But they don't have to be a thing.
They don't have to be.
So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially because we know the pilot is in, like, full swing, going to the Marble
proper
Arch.
full swing.
Yeah.
Like, they are doing it right now.
Like, going to the Marble Arch and then picking up in Italy, like, that's bonkers.
And the Black Men Over 50 thing, I mean, I have read that part of this is going to be set, that it's going to be kind of Game of Thrones-like, which is a good and a bad thing, that it will span Westeros and Essos.
Yeah.
You would think they might, we were talking about in Wit Club about some of the other cultures that they don't really touch on. They're just on the margins, something like Sothorios or Essos or even Yeti, or like, there are lots of different cultures in this world. And it seems like they're going to make more of an effort to diversify a bit. I mean, if we look at the main cast members that are already announced, that's already true.
Yes.
So that call also makes some sense to me,
Yeah.
as they call from Bloodmoon extras.
Definitely an eyebrow raiser.
Not prepared to say what it's about, but I know it's something. Before we move on beyond the wall,
Yes.
just some quick little announcements, just in case some quick news hits. Game of Thrones complete series box set coming out December 3rd.
Christmas list right there, guys.
Oh, of course it is. That's why they're doing that. Very well timed. Mm-hmm. And also, intriguingly, did you know, Cheryl, that there's been some data flying around from app analytics company Sensor Tower via Variety that we were all wondering if people were going to cancel their HBO subscriptions after Game of Thrones ended. Ends up, not really. The people who signed up for HBO Now right before season 8, so we're assuming to watch Game of Thrones, like 84% of them are still holding on. I think it's pretty good.
I mean, Big Little Lies, like.
I mean, HBO is very,
Yeah.
it has other stuff. It's got Chernobyl, which is a hit. It's got Big Little Lies. It's Predator and Watchmen, Historic Materials.
Right.
It's followed up. But the point is, I'm going to guess there's not going to be the apocalypse some feared.
Yeah, I think worries about that were a little overblown, just in the sense that, like you said, HBO has a ton of different stuff that it offers besides Game of Thrones. And especially with the follow-up of Big Little Lies, like a couple weeks after.
It's a good 1-2 punch, yeah.
Yeah, like, come on. Big Little Lies is pretty good. And they have Meryl Streep. Meryl freaking Streep. Like, I mean, that's enough to keep an HBO subscription for me. But
I think you're right.
But yeah.
Actually, I've never watched it. Is it good?
The first season's really good.
Second season?
I'm a little behind on the second season. But I like it still. I watched like the first season, like I binge watched it. I think the weekend that season 2 premiered, I think I binge watched it in an entire day because it's only 7 episodes.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Because I'm not one of those people that can really moderate. Like when I'm in it, I'm going. So.
I think Laura Dern would make an excellent kind of angular, statuesque queen in Westeros of some kind.
I would love to see Laura Dern get her fantasy chops on because
She would be good.
Admiral Holdo got robbed in The Last
Oh,
Jedi.
yeah. She was Admiral Holdo, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was the best part of that movie.
Kinda, yeah.
Where she did like that. That's one thing I mostly remember. The thing where she like blasted through the. That was the best part.
And she also had purple hair. It was great.
Purple hair, yes. Can't go wrong with purple hair.
No.
Anyway, so that's what happened in the world of Game of Thrones. You know, it's over. You knew that. But the prequel's coming,
Yes.
and the fallout continues, and Liz looking okay. I think it's a good chance the prequel of being delightful. We'll have to wait and see. But there's more than Game of Thrones on the horizon. One of
there
the
is?
probably the biggest other genre show that's being prepped. I would probably say the biggest, and tell me if you'd agree with me, is Amazon's Lord of the Rings show.
Yes.
That it, famously bought the rights, just the rights alone, for $250 million. Another 250 to make the first 2 seasons. It's gone through some kind of behind the scenes changes since we checked in on it. I want to ask a question, Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some threads that kind of cataloging how it had. Oh, and by the way, Julie loves Big Little Lies. I can see the comments now, which is great. Maybe we find out what Westeros was before Arya. Oh, that'd be fun. Julia suggests we could find out what's Westeros before Arya does, which would be very cool.
Yeah.
And Houston says that he's in that 84%. So am I. Lovely. Anyway, Amazon's Lord of the Rings show.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask a question. Is it already doomed?
Wow, we're just going right for its neck at this point, huh?
Okay. Let me
Okay.
give my little reasons.
Give me your case.
Okay.
I will listen.
So basically, I saw a thread, I think it was from the onering.net, which covers, Lord of the Rings, about all the kind of the timeline of what had happened. And when I saw it all laid out, I was like, oh, that sounds like a troubled production.
Ooh.
And let's just
Words
hear
you don't
it.
want to hear.
So Amazon spent $250 million for the TV rights, $250 million to make the first 2 seasons. And who knows how much after that. The kind of watchword is it'll be about $1 billion for the first 5 seasons, which it's committed to. It's committed to 5 seasons and a spin-off for this kind of nebulous Lord of the Rings-y show. And the contract that it signed provided that it had to begin shooting within 2 years. So that means they made $1 billion commitment, and they had to shoot something within 2 years without really having a solid idea or really like having anybody in the driver's seat when they made the purchase. Like, I think that's a huge investment without a strong direction to right out the gate. Could spell some trouble.
For those who are listening on our podcast, as Dan has been describing this to me, my mouth has just been open, like wide O of
Full open.
Oh my God. Anyway, please continue.
That there was no producer, showrunners, or actors attached when they bought it. Eventually, it hired J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, who were, 2 fairly untested young writers. I think they worked on one of the Star Trek movies. I forget which one. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But,
No.
they did get people in the chair first. At first, we heard there were these rumors that there's going to be about a young Aragorn of Denethor.
Yeah, we did.
Denethorn. But
Denethor, no N at the bottom.
Denethor?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, sorry.
it's okay.
That fell through. It's eventually, we're pretty sure now it's about the second age of Middle-earth. They released a map to that effect when Sauron was a-making those rings. After that, we had Sharon Tal Guado, the head of the genre drama department, who kind of spearheaded the show. She left. And finally, they brought in Brian Cogman, Game of Thrones writer Brian Cogman, onto the writing staff not that long ago. And it's filming now, as far as I know, or at least very, very soon, because they had to. If they didn't, the rights would revert.
Right.
And I just started to think, these are all sort of signs of a production that's not going, as smoothly as you would hope.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad.
No.
But, sometimes you see red flags, and then you get nervous.
Yeah, I think getting nervous at the very least kind of wary of what's going on
There you
here, I think is a smart approach, because that's a lot of questionable choices being made. Especially $1 billion. Like, I mean, look, I know
For 5 seasons of TV.
I know Amazon has more money than any corporation will ever need.
Oh, $1 billion is like a bee sting to them.
I know. But, like, that's just bonkers. Like, that boggles the mind because, like, for multiple reasons, not the least of which is, you know, I feel like a lot of the reception to the idea that Amazon was going to take on this property was like, but we just had the movies like 10 years ago.
I feel like you're right.
And so there's already this kind of resistance. I know it was more than 10 years ago, but like, what is time but a construct anyway?
Living memory.
Yeah.
Like I recall them.
Living memory. That's a good, yeah, I recall them too. So, and I am but a wee babe, so. But yes. And so to then hear that they like, if there is a plan, we sure don't know about it is also concerning and suspect.
I mean, I think they have a plan now. I think they didn't have one when they started. And just, you know, it feels like to me, if you were going to spend $1 billion on rights and a commitment, like you could negotiate, look, let us take a couple of years to come up with something like really, really solid.
Yeah.
Not have to shoot like immediately.
Yeah.
But again, this is all speculation. Maybe it'll be beautiful.
Maybe it will be. Like, I mean, goodness knows they're spending this kind of money. They probably can make it really pretty. But it's like, you know, I think, and we've kind of talked about this before, this rush to kind of make the next Game of Thrones.
Right.
And meaning that in the sense of the next big fantasy, high budget, blockbuster, you know, genre defining piece of work. And I think, and I've made this argument before too, is like, I don't think the next Game of Thrones is actually going to be a fantasy show. And so I think they've kind of bought into this arms race, but it's kind of like they're bringing a knife to a gunfight. If you follow me on that one. Basically, like they're picking.
It's an expensive knife.
It is a very expensive knife. It's got all kinds of filigree. Like there's all kinds of stuff going on with it. But like they're kind of choosing this old weapon instead of the newer. So
I hear you saying.
I made sense of it. It took me a second, but I got there.
I didn't get it at first, but then I got there.
Yeah, it was a journey, it was a process, and we did it together, and it's great. But yeah, I think that this is kind of, I'm not going to say like it's a dumb move by Amazon because the show doesn't exist yet, but like it just seems a little strange to me. It's a bit like how everyone tried to make their own cinematic universes after Marvel, and like most of them do not exist anymore.
Did you know there's going to be a Myst cinematic universe? I learned that today.
Oh boy.
Remember Myst? That game that clicked?
Yeah, I remember Myst. Oh boy. But yeah, like this sense that everything needs to be a cinematic universe is mostly kind of blown up in movie studios' faces, with the weird exception of The Conjuring, which still makes money.
I mean, DC is like doing okay.
Once it abandoned the concept that all the movies have to make sense together.
Sure.
Like conceptually, Aquaman is like way different from Wonder Woman, and like, so yeah, like DC has kind of had to retool its focus a little bit, and so we'll see where that ends up going.
But yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point of comparison. That I mean, like the only one who's really pulled off cinematic universe has been Marvel. Like really, really pulled it off. And so it might follow. The only one who can really, really pull up epic fantasy is going to be Game of Thrones. Like it's not something you replicate.
Yeah.
Although I think people are more excited for Wheel of Time than they are Lord of the Rings show. Weirdly, just because maybe it's never been on screen before. I get that sense. I feel like there's hype for that. Mm-hmm. And they just cast somebody, Rosamund Pike, who's a very good actress.
I love Rosamund Pike, so.
I got to read Wheel of Time.
Me too, but I love Rosamund Pike.
But before we let you go, did you know that Russell Crowe's offered the part of Aragorn?
I mean, I could see it. This was like right after.
Post Gladiator?
Yeah, I was about to say, this is like right post Gladiator, so yeah. That makes sense. But I can't see him.
Well, no. We can't see him because, I can't see Viggo Mortensen now. Apparently, it was a funny story. Mm-hmm. I forget which talk show he was on. He said that, like, the studio brought him in because I think they wanted him, but Peter Jackson clearly didn't. So he was like, okay, I feel like you're being forced to look at me. I'm just going to go.
Good on you, Peter Jackson, making it obvious.
And good on Russell Crowe for like knowing
reading the room.
Yes.
But
yeah,
yeah,
we'll see.
well, we will see. Like that's all I have to say about a lot of this crop of fantasy shows. Is we will see.
I want them to start coming out.
Yeah.
I think like the end of this year they are. Like the end of this year,
Witcher,
we're gonna
yeah.
say like Witcher's gonna come out. Yeah, that kind of thing. His materials is already almost out.
Mm-hmm.
We already got a trailer for that stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to the actual next crop. The
Yes.
post Game of Thrones harvest
Yes.
of genre
We'll
shows,
see.
big expensive ones.
We will see what happens.
All right. And by the way, Julie Davies says Meryl Streep is so good, she's driving me nuts. I wish she would leave Madeline alone. Jeez.
I know. that speech about short people, like I'm not short and I felt judged. but
I
yeah.
should really watch this.
Yes, you do.
Ahmed has hopes for Amazon LTR, and Julie says that LTR has such a huge fan base. It will have a lot of support at the start. They'll just need to make sure people will want to stay with it, and we'll see if they can.
That's the thing. But
Have any
yeah.
other thoughts, Cheryl? before
no, I'm about set to summon Josh Hill for A Song of Dan and Josh.
All right. Then I will talk into the camera as slowly Josh Hill makes his way over here for our next segment, A Song of Dan and Josh, where myself and fan-sided zone, Joshua Elizabeth Hill, talk about all things A Song of Ice and Fire. I've read the books multiple times by George R.R. Martin. Josh has never read them. We're going to go through every chapter, break them down, talk about them, and see what shakes out. Josh, how you doing?
Hello, how's it going, Selkie? Hello, everybody. Julie's out there, and who else is out there? Now that the comments are
We
working.
got Ahmed, we got Corinne, we got Josephine, we got Lauren, we got Ramses, we got
Welcome,
Patty.
welcome, everybody.
We got Houston.
Look at all these readers that are sticking around. They say
Yeah.
that books are dying. They're not.
Yes.
We're making it cool, Selkie.
We are single-handedly reviving.
The literary community is
What's your
rallying
actual middle
around
name,
us.
by the way?
Actual middle name,
Yeah.
David.
Okay, David. I called
Close
you.
on the Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's
but
short for it. And
we're-
Julie says
yeah.
hi. And so does Josephine.
Hello, Josephine.
Okay, so we're still on a Clash of Kings, still
We
about
are.
like a third-ish, a fourth-ish in,
Eh.
and we have read Bran 2
We did.
at Winterfell.
Hodor.
Bran the Broken, Hodor. Hodor makes a prominent appearance here. Okay, what are your first impressions of this one, Josh?
It was kind of talky like the last one.
Definitely talking.
So, and I was also, I didn't know that Bran had so much sway. Like Bran, the idea that Bran this is from his perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of big decisions being made, like Ramsay Bolton, Roose
Yeah, he
Bolton
comes up.
are mentioned here. So, I don't know, because I thought he was even younger than he was on the show. So the fact that
is.
he's involved in this at all was kind of surprising to me.
Well, I mean, this is again. I'll get political for a second. This is what's so fascinating and what's so ridiculous about this society.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Maester Aemon says, like Bran, your brother's gone, your father's dead.
Yeah.
Your little brother is like 3. He's not going to do anything. Your sisters are gone. You are the oldest male Stark in Winterfell. You're the Stark in Winterfell. And in this world, under this system, that means you have actual authority, which is horrible.
that was mind-boggling.
And it shouldn't happen, but it does. Like, and that's in our world too. There is a period of history where we gave power to children just because they were the oldest males and they had to have it.
Yeah.
And this is it. I mean, it's interesting because we think of it as like, oh, it's romantic. You know, we like the Starks and they're cool and they have this, but
I didn't like this. This was weird to me. I was like, a
Yeah?
child should not be having this kind of power.
I mean, to be fair, so like the chapter is basically Bran hearing petitioners at Winterfell. Like, you know, the job of a lord in medieval times is you sit in a chair or a throne, if you're lucky and you're a king or a queen, and people come before you and they complain and they tell you their problems and you have to say, okay, do this. You know, the old trick of like someone goes up and cut the baby in half. Like, what do we do with this baby? And the king, that's the king's decision. That's what Bran basically is doing.
Yeah.
He's hearing people and then he's deciding what to do about their problems. To be fair, he's not really doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's sitting there, but Maester, oh boy, Lewin, thank God
Lewin.
I got that. Maester Lewin and Roderick Cassell are kind of actually making the calls and he's kind of being there to hear and listen and to learn. But I mean, look, if he wanted to, he could say off with his head, and like they might not do it, but like they would they might.
I don't know.
And he is 8 years old, as Karen reminds us. How would you like to live in a state
Where an 8-year-old is?
was the governor? Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to refrain from being political like I usually am and relating it to current times.
Yeah, maybe you should.
Since I love him, you love that Selkie.
I mean, we can't. This is where the Wit Club. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, just go say what you mean, Gad.
Nah, we all know what I mean.
We elected that one.
That's very
This would
true.
just be if it was a governor of Illinois, was just a Pritzker, was just an 8-year-old who was the son of the last governor.
Yeah,
I'd be uncomfortable.
I would be too.
How good a job does Bran do at his lordliness?
I mean, doesn't he throw his weight behind Ramsay Bolton?
No.
A little bit.
To me, the most interesting part of this chapter is the petitioner who comes, who is, oh God, what's her name? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Can you remember her name?
I can't, no.
Fine. Oh, I got
Hornwood?
it. Hornwood,
Yeah,
yes. Lady Hornwood,
Hornwood.
thank God. All right, yeah. So, okay. Lady Hornwood, who is a widow. Lord Hornwood died.
Father and son both died.
Yes, in the
Or husband,
some
something.
war or another. She's a widow. She has no children. She technically now owns the Hornwood lands in the north. And this, again, because of this system, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Because a woman owning lands alone, this is an invitation for other northern lords who are either kind of trying to like marry her and just like we can take over.
Yeah.
Like I think the giant fat guy, Lord Wyman Manderley, is like, you know, I need a wife and she's very beautiful for her age. Or if you're Ramsay Bolton, you're sniffing around being like, maybe I'll just invade you and just take over your lands that way. It's a precarious position that only really happens as a result of the stupid society they have.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if it were today and a man had a deed on a house and then he's married and he dies and the deed goes to the wife and the kids die, like, you know, that's fine. Like, she owns the house.
Yeah.
And even if she died, it would like revert to the state or whatever. But here, everything is so uncertain in terms of who has the power that there's a real danger that there could be civil war or inter-north civil war here. Like, that this place is vulnerable. Someone might try and, at best, like force themselves into a marriage with this woman, or at worst, be Ramsay Snow and just take it over.
Is this George R.R. Martin's commentary on this kind of thing, where he's literally putting a child in charge of coming up with these decisions or overseeing the conversation? An actual child is trying to determine the best thing to do.
I don't think so. I mean, personally, just knowing what I know about George R. Martin, I think he is trying to replicate or at least be inspired by history. Like, this sort of crap happened.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's the problem when you have just inheritor goes to the eldest male problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes a father will die, and sometimes his oldest son will be 6. And that's just the way it happens. Like, this kind of problem cropped up. So my take is I don't think he's trying to make a comment. I think he's just trying to reflect what real life history would have been like. In real life history is messed up. Stupid things happen in history.
Yeah. They do.
We had to get a wild up here. Anyway, I think Bran's suggestion is the lady's husband has a bastard son. I think with the Glovers. I'm sorry if I'm getting the names wrong or the who has who. His idea is maybe he could inherit, he could be legitimized. She wouldn't like that, but it's one solution.
Yeah.
So like politics in this world, who she marries or who she inherits is a serious political question. You know, like as serious as who should we tax is in this world.
Yeah.
Like, these are actual questions of state to be decided. It's just strange and interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, this isn't the first time that George R.R. Martin has drawn from history to do these things.
Every day, all day.
Yeah. This was, I mean, I'm trying to think of like child leaders that I can remember outside of like the last emperor or whatever.
That's what I was thinking too.
Well, like
Dun,
King
dun.
Tut. Wasn't King Tut like?
Yeah, he was a kid.
Very young, like a child. So, but no, I mean,
was.
this is George R. Martin just drawing on history.
I mean, Joffrey is a kid leader too. Only unlike Bran, he's a little psycho, so he's being terrible at it.
That's true, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
why I never...
Tommen is a little kid.
Tommen.
This thing is full of kids. I mean, again, it's war too. When there's a war, you know who's going to die? The older people. You know who's going to be left? The kids. And in a system where you pass rulership down to your kids, guess who gets the power?
There you go.
Okay, so that's kind of the commentary on the politics of the time, and just not even politics, like power, like where we choose to put power here. Okay, otherwise we kind of have Bran. You know, he's conflicted as usual. He's still not out of this phase where God, I wish I could use my legs and didn't have to not be a kid who you can't use his legs. And I wish I could be a knight,
As you
not
do.
a lord. Yes.
When that happens, but...
He wants to be a knight or a squire so badly that his stomach hurt from the wanting. But he has to hear petitioners because being a fire is out of the question, and because he robs their... So basically, he's desire versus duty is what his deal is now. He also has a moment where he has to walk through the courtyard on a basket on Hodor's back. They've made all these kind of accommodations for him. They like outfitted his room with bars so he could like pull himself over the place.
It's like with the what's that thing what they put on the stairs where you can just
It is.
your electronic scooter up the wall or whatever it is. Your seat.
Hodor is totally one of those, a medieval version of whatever those are called.
The stair. It's not a stairmaster. That's something
No,
else. Bran can't use a stairmaster.
Maybe it's like an elevator. No, that's already a thing. I don't know. It's one of those. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Richard, put an image of that in. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, Hodor's one of those. They
Yeah.
talk about, again, like how Hodor had to get used to him. Like Hodor was excited to go to the kitchens one time when he just ran and forgot Bran's on his bag and hit his head in the door frame, which is just a problem that we don't have to have with our modern escalator thingies. The sight of Bran in his basket drew stares from those who had not seen it before.
Also, there's some very savage anti-Hodor
Yeah.
sentiments felt by the Frey children.
Yeah,
here.
these little Frey
Frey
dipshits are
freaks.
really,
Just-
I hate
it's-
them.
Yeah, that was...
The
Because
one-
you read that or like you see it on shows and there's just certain things that are so visceral that they make your stomach twist with like rage. I'm just like that. It made me mad. Like, again, George R.R. Martin's the fantastic writer, so he doesn't need me to compliment him. But that was another example where there are these moments in the book that it's just so visceral that you're like, oh, God,
yeah, who
those
insults
freaking
Hodor?
kids. Like, God.
Yeah, they're saying like, oh yeah, they're talking about Hodor like he sounded smart. They're calling him Bran's horse. Like, oh, he sounded smart as a horse. That's for certain. Yeah, they're the worst.
Yeah, they're horrible.
And Hodor doesn't know. Like Hodor's just, he's
No, Bran knows.
Bran knows, but Hodor's just like Hodor. He's going with it.
Good old Hodor.
And by the way, people from the comments are helping us out here.
Ooh.
Louise says that Henry VIII, son of Edward VI, became a king when he was 9.
Okay, that's okay.
All the time in history, says Corinne. So yeah, that thing totally happened.
Oh, yeah.
Henry VIII, like the Henry VIII?
Henry
He was
VIII.
king when he was that young? Elizabeth's dad? Good for him. Okay.
What's the song? I am Henry
Henry
VIII.
VIII,
I
I
am.
am.
Yeah,
Henry VIII, I am. Yeah. And he had like 6 wives and he killed 5 of them.
that's true.
Good guy. Anyway, they also had a bit, I thought we might look at, there's an interesting bit where they talk about, so Winterfell has all these new guests.
Yes.
Lord Robin Manderley, who's too fat to sit a horse, is his kind of thing.
Yeah.
Lady Hornwood comes. So there's new people in the castle milling about. And really quickly, I thought we'd talk for just a second about heraldry, just a second, and sigils. Because
Yes.
they talk about them a lot in these books. Everyone has one. We got the Targaryen sigil.
a couple over here.
We got the Lannister sigil, the lion. We got the Stark direwolf. We have, in this case, the Frey, if you're wondering, is the Twin Towers, because, that's their whole thing over the twins. And the Walders quarter their shields with surcoats and sigils from 4 different houses, like all their grandparents.
Yeah.
So they talk so much about it. I thought we'd look at an example, because this
Ooh.
does happen. This is the coat of arms of Leonor, the Princess of Asturias, the current 13-year-old heir to the throne of Spain.
Interesting.
So this is a quartered herald. I don't know. It's heraldry. This is, I don't know all the terms. This is Leonor's, Princess of Spain's sigil. You got, I don't know what those houses are from. but 4 different houses, all quartered, and that's what quartering means. Like, you can probably figure that out. With the crown on top. So that's what we're talking about. Whenever George R. Martin makes reference to his sigil bore this crap on this field, or his shield bore the white bat of whatever the hell, they're talking about something like this, which again is more important back then than it is now, but because of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is a world where they operated under a system where, if the oldest male has power, they pass it down to their kids, and that's where power is. Like, no one else has it. You can't get elected to get up. You can't. No. I guess you can.
You're born into it.
You're born into it, and so you have to mark yourself. You have to mark your territory, and that's how you do it, with those stupid symbols and everything. You put them on your shields, you put them on your helmets, you put them on your surcoats, which I'm sure is a medieval word that's taken eventually.
It's like a gang tattoo.
It is exactly like a gang tattoo. It really is.
Yeah.
Only it's like, basically, Westeros is ruled by gangs.
Yeah.
This is all just one big gang war before we standardize things.
The gangland of Westeros, with the modernization of the gangland.
I mean,
they've always existed. Like
what do you mean? Gangs?
Gangs have always been around.
Yes, gangs have always been around. I mean, I think there's a really good argument that not just A Song of Ice and Fire factions, but medieval times in general is gang warfare.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they are
tribal.
Can you be a gang if you levy taxes on people?
I mean, when does it get into the tribalism of it? Because there's
Sure.
gangs, and then there's tribalism, and then, we're splitting hairs, I think, at that point.
Sure. But yeah, good analogy. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. You had to bring taxation into it. Thanks a lot, Selkie.
Well, I mean, it's different. And
You're not wrong. Yeah, you're right.
And Louise has an update. Yes, his son Edward became king at the age of 9 and died at 12.
Oh, short reign.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Henry VIII's son Edward VI was a king at 9.
Oh,
he died.
He doesn't have a song.
What's that? No.
Edward VI.
I bet he does. There's a lot of
the
folk
Sixth
songs out there.
It doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't really
I'll
rhyme.
look them up.
Maybe.
Well, there are other songs.
I guess.
Jesus Christ,
I
Justice.
guess. Not for Edward VI.
I'm gonna go find a folk song by Edward VI. I bet one exists.
I would hope so. Like if I only lived my peak from like 9 to 12.
I mean, he ruled as a king.
But then I died. That was it. I had like a 3-year run. That's all. Like I would certainly like a song written about me.
At the very least.
What other legacy is he leaving behind? I mean, it's got to be a song.
I mean, when you're a king, you're a king.
It's true.
Like,
the minstrels will sing.
You'll
right?
be in the history books somewhere.
I suppose.
Exactly. Anyway, the final thing that happens in this chapter, I mean, again, like, not a huge moving and shaking chapter, but like this is like the meat of a lot of these books, is the decision making, is the talking, this is how we negotiate power in this world. I don't think it's a hugely, it is kind of important because we get like Ramsay Bolton mention. And already we're talking about the boy is a sly creature by all accounts, and he has a servant who is almost as cruel as he is. Reek, they call the man. He said he never bathes. They hunt together, the bastard and this Reek, and not for deer. I've heard tales, because I can scarce believe, even of a Bolton. So they're setting him up to be a very, very bad man. And by the way, Reek already exists. Not a surprise to you?
Yeah, I'd assume that Reek was just like a title that was given to
kind of
whatever, whoever Ramsay's minion is.
Yeah. In the books it is. In the show, he just kind of ahas and names Theon Reek. But in the books, there is a Reek. And spoiler alert, he dies. And then Theon like, hey, you know what you can do? You can take his place.
You're a new Reek.
Exactly. And at the very end of the chapter, I think Clay Kerwin brings up Jaime. Clay Kerwin, you don't got to remember that name.
No.
I don't think it comes up much.
No.
But there are thousands of characters here. Remember every single one. You're keeping a spreadsheet, right?
Oh, I have been. I've color-coded it and everything.
And just the end of it is Bran hears Jaime's name, or the Kingslayer, has like kind of a panic attack. He's not sure why.
PTSD.
It totally is PTSD, I think. That's how it plays to me. That he just hears it, and then like the world kind of goes loud and blank and bright, and the chapter just ends. He doesn't remember though.
Well,
kind of odd.
Something down there. It's repressed. So.
Yeah, but again, it's interesting because that never does become a giant plot point.
No.
No, I mean you've seen the show now. You know.
Well, yeah, it's true. But we did get that fantastic meme. That was the conclusion of all of that.
It kind of was, yeah.
Bran, dead-eyed, staring at Jaime.
Do you think it should have come to like a confrontation or something?
Like how so? Between Jaime and Bran?
Yeah, or like, I don't know, had some bigger effect on the story.
I mean, I would think so. Something so significant, or seemingly significant. Yeah.
I mean, I I don't think the fact that it doesn't like lead like a battle to the death or something make it not significant. I kind of
No,
like
it's
the
like
fact that
it's a thorn that's kind of there where you're like, is something going to happen? It's keeping you on your toes.
Yeah.
Is ultimately there's never really a payoff to it. So
I mean, I guess an
I mean, at least not a
payoff.
cathartic payoff that
Yeah.
you would be expecting from something like, oh, this happened so early on in the story, and it's been kind of a thing, but not a super big thing the entire time. You'd think there would be some kind of payoff there.
I like the fact that I mean that there's so much to the series that like it's kind of the inciting event, but it quickly
Yeah.
like snowballs in this much bigger thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like the conflict where you fight with somebody and then you just fight for so long. Like, what started this again? I don't care. Just gonna keep fighting.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
Well, it is kind of like the red pill, blue pill moment in the Matrix, where that's what does he take? He takes a red pill, right? Yeah,
I don't
where he
remember.
wakes up. That's kind of like your red pill moment from the Matrix, where it's not necessarily the entire story or the purpose of the entire story, but it opens up a whole can of worms, and then you dive deeper down the rabbit hole of just how crazy everything is in Westeros. So,
All right. Any other thoughts, Josh, before we get to Tyrion 3 next week?
Tyrion 3, talkie Tyrion.
More Tyrion stuff. I think last chapter's Tyrion chapter, next Tyrion chapter. There's a lot of Tyrion in this book.
Ooh, I like it. I'm a big fan. More Tyrion.
All right. We'll see you next week for Tyrion 3 here on Take the Black Live at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time at the Winter's Crane Facebook page. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week.